I just wanted to, do you realize that this is a, thank you, that the State Board of Education has not had the ability to have input on the content of textbooks for a very long time?
I do realize that.
Do you also realize that giving the State Board of Education the ability to give input into the contents of state textbooks would also give them the opportunity to appoint people to the textbook committee that have no background in education, that almost anybody could be on that committee?
It does give the SBOE greater flexibility to reject materials they find inappropriate for grade level.
But they can also have input on content.
Yes, absolutely.
Do you realize that not long ago we had a very contentious event about textbooks as it related to the Hispanics in the textbook?
I'm not aware of the specific case. I am aware of roughly what you're talking about.
But you were not aware of it was in all of the newspapers, and they had a big rally around the content in the textbooks?
Yes.
About Hispanics? Well, just let me see if I can help you remember.
Thank you.
That in 2016, the State Board of Education considered for adoption a social studies textbook entitled Mexican American Heritage that, according to scholars, had a minimum of 68 errors in that textbook. Do you recall that?
I don't recall that, but I'm going to take your word as fact.
Okay. For example, some of the sayings in the textbooks were saying Spanish conquistadors Juan de la Ante established peaceful relations with the Pueblo people, when in fact he chopped off the foot of every Pueblo man over the age of 25 to establish his rule. Do you remember that?
I do.
You also remember that in the textbooks were minimizing slavery as the cause of the Civil War. Do you remember that event?
I do.
Do you remember the event when they were saying that slaves were very happy to be slaves when they were enslaved? Do you remember that one?
I don't remember that specific case,
okay.
And if they said that, that's pretty egregious.
Do you also remember that the Atlantic slave trade between the 1500s and the 1800s, millions of workers was in the textbook? Slaves were called workers that came over from Africa to the southern United States to work on agriculture plantations?
I do.
Those kinds of things would be in the textbook, and that would give the textbook, the State Board of Education, the privilege to appoint people who could put those kinds of things in the textbook again.
Dr. Allen, go ahead. Sorry.
Is that true?
I don't see it that they would put people in there to put those things in the textbook. I understand exactly what you're saying, which is why I accepted your amendment to begin with.
Yeah. In that amendment, do you remember that I added that those persons appointed to the textbook committees should have the expertise of being an educator or having a degree in education or even a doctorate in education, that they had some expertise about the history of education?
I do remember that.
And I thought that was a good amendment.
I thought your amendment was fine. I didn't remove it. Just to be clear, I accepted your amendment.
Yes.
The Senate did not. I do think, just for clarification, the reason I accepted your amendment was for the reasons you laid out.
Yes.
Please understand, the reason I'm carrying the bill doesn't have anything to do with those things. We have a situation where people who are calling themselves publishers because they have a computer are overtly trying to slip inappropriate materials into particularly grade school type curriculum. And so I thought your amendment was a good way to protect what I was trying to protect, but at the same time stop the bill from going too far.
I hear you.
Dr. Allen, as I said, I did not remove your amendment. I agreed to take it. The Senate won't accept it. I would say we need to be very diligent that our state board doesn't end up like it was a few years ago.
I appreciate you taking that amendment, and I understand what you're trying to do, but at the same time, it also opens the gate for all of these other things to happen all over again, and I don't want people in the state of Texas to go through that again. I don't think parents would want to go through that again, and I think parents would appreciate a person on that committee having the expertise to deal with those items.
I don't disagree.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Allen.